it's the case that ended it all. A case that was just so violent, so scary, so intense that the Warrens could never, ever, ever do another case, that the Warrens could just never help anyone out ever again, unless it was through phone call, because apparently that was also a thing. Spoiler warning, by the way. Welcome to today's review of Conjuring: The Last Rites, the final film of the long-running Conjuring series. It's been going since 2013. Oh my goodness, 12 years of Conjuring-Universe films, 9 films in total. Now, the last Conjuring film, which was The Devil Made Me Do It, a lot of fans were disappointed. Does this film improve on the last film? Is it scarier? Yes. Is it better? Yes. Does that make it a top-tier film in the series, though? Well, there's a lot to discuss about that, so I hope you end up enjoying today's review of The Conjuring: Last Rites. Make sure to hit that like button if you like today's video, and make sure to subscribe if you really like it and you want to see more film reviews, because I'm doing lots of film reviews now. This is the first review on this channel, so welcome in. I hope you enjoy your stay. I hope you enjoy the vibes. We try and have a lot of fun here. So anyways, yes, last film of the Conjuring series, the big epic finale that they have been promoting for months now. Does this film meet the expectations? Well, it depends what your expectations are. Now, for me, the Conjuring films, specifically Conjuring 1, 2, 3, and 4, I'm not really counting the Conjuring-Universe films in this specific example, but the Conjuring films for me are a love story between Ed and Lorraine first, and a horror movie second. Now, of course, there is the argument to be made that the first Conjuring film was pure horror, and absolutely you are right, but I think Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson killed it together. Their on-screen chemistry was so powerful that they made the great decision to focus on their relationship in the next films. And even though James Wan directed the second film, and it was very scary, I still think the first film is, the scariest of all 4 Conjuring movies. And I think the first Conjuring film is the scariest Conjuring-Universe film. I think the only film that even comes close to matching the atmosphere and scares of that first Conjuring movie is Annabelle Creation, although I could be in the minority there. I want to know what your favorite Conjuring-Universe film is. Please let me know in the comment section below. And if you've seen The Conjuring: Last Rites, also let me know what you thought about it in the comment section below as well. These films to me are a love story between Ed and Lorraine Warren first, and then they're a horror movie second. They do try and do a lot in this film, and I think that was kind of detrimental to the overall feeling of it. They wanted to have their sweet send-off for Ed and Lorraine Warren. They wanted to have that huge emotional punch with Lorraine and Ed Warren's daughter in this film, and they wanted this to also be a very scary film with action set pieces kind of sprinkled throughout. And when I say action set pieces, I mean like action set pieces. Director Michael Chavez, who for some reason James Wan thinks is like his prodigy or likes him to direct these types of films for him as a producer, I don't really understand, because James Wan's direction is so solid, it's so tight, the editing is always so good, and the scares, the build-up, the atmosphere, it's all fantastic. Now, is this Michael Chavez's best film that he's directed so far? I would probably say yes, but that doesn't mean that it is a great film. That doesn't mean that it has met all of the expectations for me personally, and let's kind of discuss why. Spoiler alert, by the way, if you do not want to be spoiled, I will leave a timestamp towards the end of the video that you can skip to if you want to know what my general thoughts and score for the film is out of 5. So to get into some spoiler territories, let's just kind of talk about what the film is about. It opens with Ed and Lorraine Warren with their very first case that they ever did together as a couple. And for some reason, Lorraine Warren, who's like 9 months pregnant, doing their first demonic case together. I'm not sure why you're doing a case when you're 9 months pregnant, but in any case, they chose to do that. Lorraine is investigating a mirror in an attic. She touches the mirror, it shatters, and then she goes into labor. And then there's this demonic entity that clearly wants her daughter. It's very obvious. This demonic entity is like, I want your daughter. The demonic entity literally looks at the camera and goes, I want your daughter. You know what? It probably should have just done that, because for some reason the characters act like the daughter isn't what the entity wants throughout the entire film. And there are actually several entities, but we will get there. So we skip forward a little bit to a hospital where Lorraine Warren gives birth to their daughter Judy, and she's stillborn, and that is very sad, and it's very emotional. I actually thought the opening 15 minutes was very well done. I thought the actors that they got to play a young Ed and Lorraine Warren did very good, especially with the character mannerisms. And I thought that the initial stillborn birth death of their daughter was emotional. It was very sad. Lorraine Warren's reaction in the hospital bed, I mean, maybe it's because I know someone personally who has had a stillborn before. Maybe that just kind of hit me a little bit more, but I thought it was a very well done emotional moment. And this whole film definitely tries to play on the emotions of parents, kids. There's the theme of growing old for Ed and Lorraine Warren. There's the themes of protecting family at all costs. There's different themes sprinkled throughout, but it all comes down to the Warrens as a family. Now, we haven't even talked about the main family in this film who are dealing with all of the demonic entities, the Smurl family, yet, because this is how long it's taken to kind of introduce the Smurl family and set up the whole film. There's a lot of setup, by the way. This film is also the longest in the franchise as well, and you can feel it. So now that we can finally move on to the Smurl family and get their introduction, they did try and do kind of a one-take shot, just like in the opening Conjuring film, the very first one, where they're introducing that family. You have the camera swooping around the house, you have siblings running around the building, you have a huge staircase, big living room, big kitchen, you have this big, it's a busy family. It is a busy family. The household is very loud, very chaotic, as you would imagine a house with like 8 kids and 2 grandparents and 2 parents. This household for the Smurl family is absolutely chaotic. Now, one of the Smurl daughters, her name is Heather, I believe. Man, I'm gonna have to fact check that. Hold on, give me a second. Okay, yes, it is Heather. She is celebrating her birthday, and for her birthday, her grandfather gives her a huge, scary-ass mirror, and this is the exact same mirror that 20-some years earlier, Lorraine Warren had touched, and there's a big crack in it, and that mirror is now brought into the Smurl family's house, and then this is where we start to get the spookies, the scary moments of the film, where you have 3 separate spirits. You have a axe-wielding maniac, you have some kind of old lady that looks super scary. For some reason, the Annabelle doll is also in here, that spirit. I'm not sure what's going on. And then there's like the big bad spirit, the big bad demon that we didn't really get a proper look at. Maybe I wasn't paying attention. I don't know. In any case, with the Smurl family, they're starting to get terrorized. And then we jump back to the Warren family. Ed Warren is celebrating his birthday, has lots of people over. At Ed Warren's birthday, Judy brings along her boyfriend. They've been together for about 6 months. His name is Tony. He's actually kind of a funny character. I liked him in this. They're introduced. Obviously, you're going to have that dynamic where Ed Warren disapproves of any man with his daughter, because that's just how father figures are. They're very protective of their daughters. And then later in the film, they have a moment together where they build trust, because Tony discusses what happened to him when he was a cop and why he's no longer a cop. Ed tells Tony why he's so protective of his daughter, explaining the stillbirth situation. And while all this is happening, Father Gordon, he connects with the Smurl family. He sees what's been going on the news. He goes to their house in Pennsylvania, and he goes into the basement, and he's spreading holy water everywhere. And then the holy water starts to simmer, starts to burn and boil, and there's lots of steam coming up from the ground. And Father Gordon's like, I gotta get the heck out of here. There's something going on. I'm gonna go talk to the church. They're gonna listen to me, I promise. So he goes to discuss things with another higher up within the church, of whatever church it is. He shows up, he's waiting in this waiting room, and then there's like a dude with a floor cleaner, just like pushing this floor cleaner. And I was wondering what was going on with the floor cleaner guy, because they like made a real hard point. Like they framed him when Father Gordon was entering the secretary office, they framed this in a certain way. And as Father Gordon is waiting to be seen by a priest, I'm assuming, whoever is the higher up of this church group that he's part of, the secretary is just no longer in her desk anymore, and he's looking around, he's like, hello? And then, of course, this demonic entity kind of like busts through the doors. You don't actually get to see it. Father Gordon leaves the room and then hangs himself with the cord of this floor cleaning thing. I don't know. It looked goofy. The whole sequence was goofy to me. But because of Father Gordon's death and apparent suicide, which we know technically wasn't, he was possessed or whatever. This is where I have problems with the film, because the whole time this evil demonic spirit is trying to get the Warrens to the Smurl house in Pennsylvania. They're trying to get them back to that mirror. They're trying to get them back so that they can take Judy. And obviously Judy is the vessel that they want. It has been very hammered home right from the start of the film that it is all about Judy. Now, Father Gordon, he tried to connect with Ed and Lorraine Warren. He tried to get them to go see the Smurl family before, and and they didn't listen. They said, no, we're done doing that. And then eventually Judy at the funeral of Father Gordon touches Father Gordon's casket, has some kind of vision, which for some reason we don't get to see. I would love to see directors do a show don't tell, but in any case, Judy ends up leaving. The Warrens go to Pennsylvania to try and find her. They go to the Smurl house. Judy's there. And for some reason, Judy's like really happy to see her mom and dad. She's like, oh my God, mom and dad, hi, welcome. And she's like, bro, like, what are you doing? Like, you know, their reaction is not going to be happy about you being here. In any case, doesn't matter. Then you get a few more shenanigans, a few more spookies. You have, I don't know, the whole sequence at the end of the film in the third act with the mirror. I thought it was goofy. It's just the Smurl father. You have Ed Warren, you have Tony, all trying to just get this mirror out of the house, essentially, is what this is. And then the mirror starts spinning like crazy. And then the mirror's like squishing Tony into the ground. And it's like ripping up his leg. And then all the spirits are in the mirror. And then through the power of love and family, the Warrens, their daughter Judy, Ed and Lorraine, they push back on the mirror. They are no longer afraid. Lorraine tells Judy, hey, don't try and make them go away. We have to face this head on, and they do. And then the mirror explodes or something, and the demons are gone, and I'm not really sure how the film ended like that. But in any case, that was the big bad finale. This film needed less time developing the relationship of Judy and Ed and Lorraine Warren, and it needed more time focusing on the Smurl family, because I think the Smurl family had the more interesting story going on. And now I love Ed and Lorraine Warren. I love Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga, but they definitely needed more time with the Smurl family. I think the Smurl family specifically had a lot going for them when they were initially introduced, and then there were a couple sequences of scares in that house as it was cutting back and forth between the Warrens and them. I understand that there's only so much time that they had in this script, but I think a tighter hour and 50-minute long cut of this film probably exists somewhere. And I feel like a director like James Wan probably would have been able to accomplish a lot more with this script than Michael Chavez did. But in any case, those are my thoughts on the film. Just in general, I know it's kind of a discombobulated review because there was so much going on in this film, but it also didn't feel super focused. And that's kind of why this review's not focused. As a longtime fan of the series, this film did not really meet the expectation of a big grand finale. Although it was still an emotional film, there were still very emotional moments between Ed and Lorraine Warren and, of course, their daughter. There was moments with the Smurl family that I really enjoyed, and some of the scares in this film. There's one sequence in particular involving a retro television like that, a VCR, and just the way it's framed, the way it's shot, the way it's edited. I really liked it. I thought it was fantastic. We needed more atmospheric scares like that, where there's no technical jump scare happening, but as the scene is progressing, you feel that tension. You feel that thread just tightening and tightening and tightening until eventually you're just sitting there at the edge of your seat with your white knuckling, you got sweat dripping down your palms. That was pretty much the only scene, though, that actually kind of scared me throughout this film. And there was one good jump scare towards the end. There was like a flash of lightning and then some demonic face appeared and it was, oh my God, this is scary. In any case, this film was okay. I think if I were to rank the Conjuring films in order from best to worst, Conjuring number 1 is the best, Conjuring number 2 is second best, Conjuring Last Rites is third best, and then Conjuring Devil Made Me Do It is fourth best. I am going to give The Conjuring Last Rites a 3 out of 5. This is by no means a bad movie, but as a fan of the series and as someone that was expecting a little bit more from the grand finale, you know, the case that ended it all, I think there's going to be a lot of fans kind of with that same feeling that I had where, you know, you enjoyed a lot of the film. There's lots of aspects that are, you know, enjoyable. This is Michael Chavez's best film that he's made, but the bar is very low there. But in any case, those are my thoughts. I hope you enjoyed today's review. Please tell me what you thought of Conjuring Last Rites in the comment section below, and we'll see you in the next one. All right, folks, take care. See you soon.